Horticulture.
Back at it again. It's the Horticulture Podcast. We have a special guest with us today, Naz Perez.
What's going on? Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem.
Are you guys all in Florida?
Yeah, we're all in Florida.
Wow. I'm sending you guys my love right now. I can't. How are you guys all doing right now?
We're good. We're amazing. How about yourself?
I'm okay. I'm pretty heartbroken. I'm heartbroken and hopeful, I think would be the word. You know, I run a support group for people that are heartbroken. And I just feel like racial injustice is just a heartbreak that's ongoing and that's been swept under the rug for a long time. So I kind of feel like we're building a plane while flying it, but what's going on outside my doors like instilled a lot of hope in me. Like I feel very proud to be a part of this generation, if that makes sense.
So yeah, you said you miss Florida. What part of Florida are you from?
So I'm from South Florida. I feel like that's the easiest answer because I wasn't born in Florida, but we first lived in Miami. Then we lived in Coconut Creek, so Broward County. And then what I consider home is Boca Raton because we lived there the longest. That's where I went to high school. You know, my parents still have a place there. So, but all of South Florida, I feel is like all like one place, you know?
Yeah.
Where are you? What part of Florida are you guys from?
Well, I'm near Boca, but I'm more Coral Springs, and Lisa's like north. Like I don't know.
I'm actually, I was Wellington. Now I'm Port St. Lucie. So
okay, we're all same. Yeah, right down 441. Oh my God, Roosevelt. This is the weirdest thing ever. I have dreams of being little at the Coral Square Mall. Like I have dreams of the fish tank in front of like Orange Julius. I don't know if you guys remember any of this.
I've never even been to that mall ever. I actually don't even know where Coral Gables is. I'm originally from New York, so I have no idea.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Look, you remember that? You remember that, Clark?
I'm in Sunrise, but I've been all around. I lived in Coral Springs. I lived in Boca too. So
okay.
Yeah. Nice. I know what you're talking about. Julie's, I know you're talking about. Orange Julie, I know what you're talking about. Right by the
I don't think they even have that anymore. Like, I don't remember that.
No, 100%.
They have one actually on Dixie over here on Palm Beach. They have one, and it's actually really good, too.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Orange Julius was good.
I wanted to say that you went from South Florida, you went to UCF in Orlando.
Yeah. And
you graduated, and then you graduated a broadcasting degree. What made you go to broadcasting? What made you say, this is what I want to do?
It was so funny. I didn't really know what I wanted to do going into college. And I remember having so much anxiety, having to fill something out. And you know, orientation, when you go around with your parent, I don't know, it's not orientation actually. You know, when you're taking a tour, and you're going around with your parents and there's like someone from the college that's like leading the tour. And I've always like loved movies and TV and just entertainment and sports. And so the guy that was giving the tour, I was like, well, what's your major? And he was like, broadcast journalism. And I was like, oh, and he's like, yeah, I want to be a news anchor. And then I was like, done. That's what I want to do. Like, that was like, it was like this weird moment. And so that's sort of like how I think I always wanted to do that deep down. I just didn't like know that like how to do it, you know, until he told me that's what it was.
And then from that, you graduated and you ended up in LA. And what made you want to go to LA?
So I had originally I wanted to be a sports reporter, like the next Lisa Salters or Rachel Nichols or Doris Burke. Like I looked up to all these women on ESPN and I spent all of college interning, doing all these sports internships, like for NBA Entertainment, Fox Sports Florida, and all this stuff. And I was at the finals in 2012 when LeBron won his first championship ring. It was like OKC in Miami. And for some reason, it was a month before I was about to graduate. I was like, I don't think I want to be a woman and go into sports. Not like to discourage women from going into sports, like you 100% should. I think I would just remember like this one woman on the sidelines, like pronounced someone's last name wrong, like Sal Talamacchia. That's the last name of a baseball player. And she just got like scrutinized and people, it's really hard for women in a lot of industries, but especially sports, to prove their credibility. So I was like, damn, I don't know if I want to bust my ass and work so hard to like say one thing wrong to then lose it. That was my mentality back then. That's not my mentality now. But so then a month before I graduated, I was like, all right, well, I want to go into entertainment. I saw Juliana Rancic's True Hollywood Story. She's a host on E!
I used to love her.
Yeah, I was like, I want to be the next her. Like, that's what I want to do. So I got to move to LA. So I got an internship at the Ellen DeGeneres show. And that's sort of the reason why I moved to LA. But it was all within like a month before I graduated. Like my whole college, I was like, I'm doing sports. And then again, just like this moment happens and it just changed.
Did you like, so you went to LA with no money saved up or nothing? You just went?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents, like, they didn't give me $1, and it was really scary. And I was so grateful for the Ellen internship because it was paid. And I always tell people, I took an internship out of college after already having done like 1 million internships. And I feel like when people come out of college, they're like, I did the work. It's time for me to have a job. But I think people forget it's so easy to get your foot in the door when you're an intern. So I was very lucky that they paid $9 an hour. So my mom had a friend out here that lived in Burbank, and which is where Warner Brothers Studios is. And I lived in that woman's kids' toy room in like a blow-up mattress. And it was like a crazy toy room, it was just like a blow-up mattress and like a bunch of like plastic toys around me. And I lived there for 9 months. I think I paid her like $300 a month or whatever I could afford.
Sometimes you got to make that sacrifice. I remember going to LA, what was it, like 2 years ago? I went for Complex Con. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I love Complex Con. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went there, and my first time ever going there, we was like doing a vlog, and we met like a whole bunch of celebrities. We were doing like little mini interviews, walking around, and as soon as I got there, I was like, wow, I think I belong here. Like, I want to move here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had that feeling either too, but some people don't like it. But I just felt like I was at home for some reason. But I also would say this too: I hate the traffic.
Yeah, the traffic sucks. Like being in Florida, it's so funny. My mom was like, you don't have a garage? She's like, you don't have washer dryer in your house? These are like basic essential things that like everyone has in Florida. And I'm like, I know it's rough, but I felt the same way as you, Roosevelt. I feel now I've lived here for 8 years now, and I kind of, obviously a lot of us have seen The Last Dance, which is like the most incredible sports documentary.
Michael Jordan, MJ.
About Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls, and there's 6 championships. But he was like, I'm from North Carolina, but I feel like Chicago's my home, and I feel the same. Like, I'm from Florida, but I really identify with Los Angeles and the culture here.
Yeah, it's amazing over there. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Like, I feel the same way, like how Rose feels like, because I've been there, and I've been there, like, I can't even count how many times I've been there. But my brother lives there, like downtown, and it just feels like Florida, but times 10. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it just, like the scenery is amazing. The people are cool. Yeah. Everybody's so connected too. Like, they just,
It's expensive up there too.
Oh my God, it's so expensive. I mean, it's not New York. Like, I feel like I have a lot of friends that moved to New York from Florida because it's sort of like the 2-hour flight and it's easier. But I don't know. I'm like, the weather here is so much better. But no, it is.
Yeah, really, I hear San Diego is amazing. I have one of my best friends that lives in San Diego, and they say that it's amazing. And he sends me like videos and photos, or like he'll FaceTime me and the kids and stuff and show us, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, San Diego legit has the greatest weather, like, of all the country, I think. But yeah, it's expensive here. Like, I live in a room, as you guys can see. Like, I feel like people, everyone always thinks Instagram's real and people are killing it or whatever. And, I think I have worked hard for what I have, but I'm also, I don't know, I don't need I don't need a 1-bedroom. I don't need all that stuff, But it is expensive here for sure. It's annoying. Yeah. Like, my friends are paying the same thing I'm paying, and they're like, on A1A in Miami, they have like ocean view, like 1-bedroom, like a full
trip. Yeah, South Beach style.
And I have like I'm like, wow, we're paying the same thing, and I have no washer dryer in my unit,
That's crazy.
It's different. Yeah, it's different.
Wild. Yeah. But it's worth the sacrifice for me, I think.
Definitely. You came a long way. That's scary going out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I think people are, I mean, I've risked everything in my career. Like I've always jumped, and I've only ever made it because I jumped. Like I drove to E, handed them my resume because I wanted to be the next Juliana while I was working at Ellen. And then E was like, hey, you want to come? We have a 3-month job for you. And Ellen had just hired me because I was an intern. So Ellen hired me, and I was like, well, I have this full-time job at Ellen, like this huge daytime talk show, you know, but I got to leave. I got to go and work there 3 months and risk it, or I'm never going to get in the door there. And so I did. And then after the 3 months was up, I had no job, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to move home. Like I have no money. But then it's like, I think those are the moments like where you can be most creative, you know, in those moments of like survival and like trying to just make it happen.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was when, this was 2013. I was like crying because I was like, man, I shouldn't have left Ellen. And I was like starting to regret it. And then that was when, around the time when basketball players started really dressing to the nines, and like, you know, the walk from the bus to the locker room became like a fashion show. And I was like, well, I just worked this 3-month job at E with Ryan Seacrest where he's asking George Clooney who he's wearing. And I was like, if there's people out there that care what George Clooney's wearing, there's got to be people that care what Dwayne Wade and LeBron James are wearing, you know? So I started... What? And Russell Westbrook, yeah.
For sure.
He was going AWOL with it at one point.
He was my favorite because he didn't have a stylist, and a lot of them do. So while I was unemployed and I was scared, I started to write about it, and I would like write about who they were wearing. And because I remember working that finals before I decided to move to LA that I was telling you guys about, you know, 5 minutes ago. I remember Dwayne Wade's cargo pants got more headlines than the game did. Like there were more people talking about like how he rolled up his pants, I think it was.
Because they were too short and stuff like that. Yeah.
I see now. I remember that.
So I started to there were only 3 websites at the time. Complex was only doing sneakers. And so I was covering who these people were wearing and who the designers were and all that stuff. And then I started sidelinestyles.com. And then my first on-camera gig ever was for the Style Network covering the ESPY, the ESPN Awards, because they were like, oh, we need a girl that knows who these athletes are, but that knows about fashion. So I was like, all right, that's my niche. Like, I got it, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing.
But then 3 weeks later, the Style Network got canceled. So then it's just so that's like the TV, that's the industry, you know? It's like you're gonna get up and you're gonna get knocked down. You just got to keep getting back up, you know? What do you guys do?
I'm a hairstylist and I own a barber shop, but I do work a lot of the Miami Swim Week and Fashion Week and a lot of weddings. So I do like kind of the fun stuff. So I get to kind of dabble a little bit in that, which is pretty fun, you know, because it's always pretty hectic and chaotic.
I need you to do my hair when I get down there because I feel like no one knows how to
Let me know.
Yeah.
I'm actually always in Boca too. I'm not too far from that. When we have an office in Fort Lauderdale, when we're not in quarantine, where we actually all meet up in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. How long has it been since you guys have all seen each other?
March, February?
Wow,
3 months before spring break.
That's true, yeah. It was a long time, man.
Actually, no. I seen Clark 2 weeks ago for his daughter's birthday party.
Oh, yeah. I'm going crazy. Whoa, I said not
FaceTime
forget that.
Yeah.
You were at my house.
I was there in spirit through FaceTime, you know.
That's amazing. Are people, so being from Florida and moving away, you sort of have to become this like defendant of Florida.
Yeah, that's so true.
Like you will be attacked. Like I had my Florida license plates on for the longest, like way longer than I should have ever had. And people were like, man, you're from the penis of America. And it's like, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm proud of it. Like I love Florida, but are people actually quarantining there? Because from what we see on the news, and I know the news isn't like always like ever really accurate of what's actually going on, but it seems like
no, girl,
people are outside.
not really. honestly, I want to say like a week. Everybody kind of was over it. I mean, they're still taking precautions where it's like limited amount of people in Walmart. But like, I mean, everybody is still at the beach. People are still running around. People are still, working out, like having parties. Spring break was that same month, and everybody was partying in Miami and covering the beaches. And, it was super hectic regardless.
That's
so
wild.
no, I don't. I mean, at least by me, I don't think
It
people are
calmed
really
down
taking it
though.
as serious as they probably could, to be honest. But it did, like, people are staying in, but they're not exactly, like, restaurants are open and there's still people out. Like, I just actually saw in Fort Lauderdale, there was a friend of mine who snapped, like, a Snapchat or something. And she was out at a club and it was packed. Like, there were a lot of people and it was in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm like, girl, you don't even have a mask on either. So, I mean, what's gonna happen? And I just saw, like, I've been on watching the statistics and the rise and the cases and stuff like that, and obviously I'm sure it's not 100% accurate, but they've kind of spiked quite a significant amount. So I'm trying to just stay in my quarantine zone and not the essential water.
It's best. I love alkaline water. Yeah, I'm scared for the numbers. I'm scared because my parents live there and they aren't really. I feel like I was becoming my parents' parent. I was like.
Yeah, a lot of people are feeling like that. Yeah, a lot of people's feeling like that.
It's wild.
Yeah, and I actually just seen a flyer literally earlier today saying, come to this party to support George Floyd. And I was like, y'all gonna go over there to go party all around each other, like you don't know what somebody got? I was like, that's crazy. I'm not going.
It's crazy. Yeah, I went to a protest on Wednesday, and it was actually really amazing because I feel like people were very conscious of like the fact that we are still in a pandemic, and everyone had a mask on. And what I thought was so insane, something I had never noticed before, was that not one cop had a mask on.
Yeah,
Clark was saying something like that. And you know what else Clark said? He said, why are the police officers not protecting, like, the, what you said, Clark? Protecting the stores?
Why aren't they? It's like they're trying to prevent the protesters from doing something, but why not just go straight to the stores in that district and just block them off if you can? Why not just try to put a barricade in front of the stores,
Yeah. I mean, I think that all really went down here last weekend, and everything, it feels like the city's like cleaned up now. A lot of the community like came out, and it feels like that's not really like an issue here anymore. But the National Guard is here, like the military is like down the street.
Oh, wow.
And it's very off-putting, and it's weird. Like, we're living in very wild times.
Yeah, seems like, but I know we just kind of try to stay positive, because I'm not gonna lie, I was getting to the point where, like, I was getting my emotions into it, and I was like, man, like, they are breaking stuff and going into the stores, and they're mad, and maybe that's how they should do it. And then I was like, I had to take a step back, because Lisa did say something, and think about those people with that own the businesses, even though they have insurance, then that insurance is not going to, they don't know if they're going to cover
100%.
Or exactly. And also the time it's going to take to recover, to get that money to rebuild. They may take forever since what's going on. So
right.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's heartbreak all around, man.
Yeah.
What are you? Yeah, I was about to say, since we're already on this topic, I didn't want to even talk about this now, but we might as well just run the topic. What are your thoughts on the whole George Floyd thing?
I mean, like I was saying, I'm so heartbroken, and racism is a heartbreak that is ongoing, and it's just going to take a lot of time for people to look inward and do the work. But and like I was saying to you guys earlier before we started recording, it feels like right now we're building a plane while we're flying it. But I think I am hopeful, because through Instagram and social media and people's voices and everything happening outside my door, like, I feel like there is more hope and togetherness than being alone. And I think there's been a lot of lack of empathy in the world. And I feel like people are feeling guilt. And through that guilt, it is showing that they have the capacity to learn, to empathize, to change. So, you know, I just as much as almost like everyone in the world am devastated over George Floyd. Breonna Taylor, I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, her too, yeah.
Birthday.
I absolutely agree, yeah.
And, you know,
it's, you know, I feel like they tend to forget, but it's just multiple people as opposed to one, you know?
Exactly. And there's so many that we don't even know of. And this has been happening forever. So, so I think I just have to remain hopeful right now. And I am really proud to be a part of this generation. And I really hope people get out there and vote.
You know what I like about this generation too, compared to like the other rides that I seen? I wasn't there, but based off of I heard older people talk, this generation have all races coming together. Like there's a lot of white people coming, like speaking up for like, and it's not their parents. And I see a lot of older white people, but it's really the younger generation that's out there fighting, like trying to change, make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like you said, our generation and the generation under us is really this might be the threshold where everything changes. Like this might be the year 2020 where everything just stops and change.
Yeah, I was seeing, you know, I think in the beginning of this year, all of us were feeling like 2020 is canceled, like this year is trash. And now it's, you know, we're in the middle of the year, we're in June, and it feels like there's this turning point and there's this, you know, current where it's like, well, maybe 2020 isn't canceled. Maybe this is the greatest year ever. You know, maybe this is the year everything started to get better for everyone.
Exactly. And it's funny, like we're like midway between in the year, and it's like you said, it is starting to, I feel like it's changing just like at the perfect time. I feel like it's gonna change, but just stay positive basically, you know?
Yeah.
Can I ask you something? Did you hear what Candice Owens said? Like did she on it?
No.
You didn't hear what she said?
No.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It was a mouthful, man. It was a mouthful.
Really?
Let me see if I can even. Yeah, it was a mouthful. Like it's crazy. Let me see if I can even find it. I was like, oh my god. Go ahead.
I like your podcast, by the way. I just wanted to say. Yeah, I was listening.
Yes, I love it. It definitely has great content and relatable things.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm about to play it. So it's like 14 minutes long, but I'm just gonna play like I guess the part that you should hear.
Okay.
Family, I have decided to do this video. It has been weighing very heavily on my heart and on my mind as well. And it was something that I wanted to say early on, but there were so many emotions and so much pressure for me to go with the popular opinion about who George Floyd was. And sometimes it can be difficult when there are just so many external pressures to say what you believe. And this was an instance where I felt like my silence would have been better in the beginning, but the more that I think about it, I realize that we are being sold a lot of lies, and at the detriment to the Black community, at the detriment to the white community, and at the detriment to America as a whole. So I want to come out and say that I do not support George Floyd and the media depiction of him as a martyr for Black America. I'm going to explain why, and I hope that some of you guys will understand where I'm coming from. I have spent a considerable amount of time reading a lot of Black authors that I think are some of the most brilliant Black Americans breathing. Walter Williams, Shelby Steele, Thomas Sowell. And I recently came across something that was an idea that was planted into my head by Shelby Steele. And it has been something that I cannot forget. It is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And it is something that I hope for the Black Americans that are watching will stick with you for the rest of your life. Shelby Steele said that the Black community is unique from other communities. Our culture is unique from other communities because we are the only community that caters to the bottom denominator of our society. Now, let me explain what that means. It means to say that not every Black American is a criminal, not every Black American is committing crimes, but we are unique in that we are the only people that fight and scream and demand support and justice for the people in our community that are up to no good. You would be hard pressed to find, a Jewish person who has spent 5 stints in prison, who commits a crime and dies while committing a crime, and that the Jewish people champion and demand justice for. You will be hard pressed to find this in white America. You'll be hard-pressed to find this even in Latino America. If there is a person that is spent multiple times in prison, you are not going to see a bunch of Latinos coming out demanding justice for this person, even if, and I want to be very clear, what I'm saying is not any defense for Derek Chauvin. I hope Derek Chauvin gets the justice that he deserves to be, implemented upon him, and that the family of George Floyd deserves justice for the way that he died. But I also am not going to accept the narrative that this is the best the Black community has to offer. For whatever reason, it has become fashionable over the last 5 or 6 years for us to turn criminals into heroes overnight. And it is something that I find to be despicable, and it is something that I refuse to stand by any longer, and I am not going to play a part in it, no matter how much pressure comes from Black liberals and Black conservatives as some token of people wanting you to believe that this is the only way you can be Black, is you have to say this was wrong and that this person was amazing. I won't do that. George Floyd was not an amazing person. And as soon as this video hit the internet, I did just basic searches. Everyone jumped on it and was looking at the police officer, and everyone agrees that the police officer was wrong, and the police officer has been arrested. So that is not the reason I'm not discussing that, is because that is not something that has been misconstrued in the media. He has been turned into the devil that he is, and there is no reason for us to harp on that any longer, because white Americans are not uplifting Derek Chauvin as a victim or pretending that he's an amazing human being. But George Floyd is being uplifted as an amazing human being. And for those of you who have not yet seen the clips and did not pursue or wait for more clips to come out, first and foremost, George Floyd at the time of his arrest was high on fentanyl, and he was high on methamphetamine. This came back in both of his autopsy reports. If you pursue the 911 transcript, you can see the person describing somebody who is out of their mind high, and which is what made the person fearful, because he tried to use a bill that I guess was a fake bill to purchase something, and then he was outside acting weird, and they, in their police call, said that this person was obviously distorted on drugs. When he is put into handcuffs and is put against the wall, a baggie of what looks to be like cocaine or it's white. It's a white baggie that he drops onto the floor that you can see in an image. If you look up the clip, the media is refusing to circulate it. You can find it on Twitter. If you use DuckDuckGo and look up George Floyd baggie, you can watch the clip yourself with your own eyes. He had drugs on him at the time of his arrest. Now, barring all of that, nobody thinks that he should have died during this arrest. But what I find despicable to be is that everyone is pretending that this man lived a heroic lifestyle when he didn't. And I want to talk about what his lifestyle was leading up to this moment, and why I refuse to accept the narrative that this person is a martyr or should be lifted up in the Black community, and that we should be buying T-shirts with his name on it. Okay. So here we have, first and foremost, let's start from the bottom of his record. And by the way, I am not saying that if you have a record, you don't deserve a second chance. I think people get arrested, and some people can serve time in prison, and I believe in second chances, but I do draw the line when it comes to second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth chances. 1998, he spent 10 months in prison for theft with a firearm. That was the first prison stint that I could find on him. In 2002, he spent 8 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2004, just 2 years later, he spent another 10 months in prison for a cocaine offense. In 2005, he spent another 10 months in prison for having less than 1 gram of cocaine on him again. In 2007, and this was the biggest instant that I had that made me realize this was a horrible human being that I am not going to pretend was a good person. In 2005, a woman who was pregnant received a knock at the door, and she went to the door, and the person pretended to be someone that worked for the water department. So she opened her door and quickly realized that the person at her door did not work for the water department, and attempted to slam it. At the moment that she was attempting to slam it, a Ford pulled up, and another 5 men jumped out of the car, and one of which was George Floyd, came up to the door, and they forced their way inside to her home, inside of her home. Mind you, this woman is pregnant. At that point, George Floyd took out a gun and pressed it to her stomach. And she was screaming, begging for her life, and he put her inside of her living room and instructed one of his criminal friends that was with him to watch her and to make sure she didn't leave the living room. So he was playing guard while they ransacked her home looking for drugs and money. They did not find drugs. They ended up taking, I believe, her wallet and her cell phone. Fortunately for her, her neighbor observed what was going on and caught the license plate of the people as they pulled off and called 911. And when 911 was able to, they were able to track down the car of which George Floyd was the driver, and they arrested him. And 2 years later, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for that instance. Now, you can say the media is portraying it like he was just getting his life together after, being released in 2014 following that incident. He was just getting his life together and moved and was going to start afresh. I'd like to believe all of those things, and there's a gap, and he never got in trouble for 5 years until this incident when the police were called on him again. But you are defying common sense to believe that this person suddenly became an exemplary character but happened to be high on fentanyl and methamphetamine and trying to use a bill, a fake bill, to purchase something. And so in my opinion, George Floyd was a criminal. He was a criminal. And just because he was a criminal doesn't mean he deserved to die at the knee of a police officer. But it does mean that I am not going to play a part of the broken Black culture that always wants to martyr criminals, who wants to pretend they were these upstanding human beings that just wanted to help society, that just wanted to reach out and uplift society. And he has a rap sheet that is long, that is dangerous. He was an example of a violent criminal his entire life. Okay, up until the very last moment. Now, again, I want to be clear. This is not a defense for Derek Chauvin. No one that I have spoken to, no one in the news is defending Derek Chauvin. He is getting what he has coming to him. Okay, great. But why are we pretending that this criminal should be upheld as a citizen, as a martyr in Black America? A martyr for a fake narrative, by the way.
Yeah, I can't even listen to the rest, but what are your thoughts on what you just heard about what she said?
I mean, it's just heartbreaking, and I feel like all I hear is a lack of empathy. And unfortunately, when it comes to Candice Owens, I can't say that I am surprised. This is someone who's been pro-Trump since 2016. This is someone who's been against welfare, even though she's admitted that her family's on welfare. This is someone who called the Me Too movement stupid and that she hated it. So I think all I can say right now, because I haven't listened to the entire thing in its entirety to form a complete and full and honest opinion, I just think it's heartbreaking, but I'm not surprised. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like basically, for her to point that out, she's saying she's not trying to judge him and so forth, and make it seem like he deserved it. But to bring up the past like that, she's definitely doing that. I'm
Right.
going to judge her based off of that. Definitely, that's it. And for her to say, he's the lead, like she's basically saying he's nothing. Like he's not supposed to be on this pedestal. But if we're saying all Black lives matter, I'm saying he does matter. And it looks like, he within that 4 or 5 years, he was getting his life together. That's what it seems like,
Oh yeah, you didn't get to hear that part, but she was like, there's a 5-year gap between the year he got arrested. And my whole point is people change, people go through things. You don't know what situation he was put in to be doing all this stuff. And then secondly, nobody said he was the face of all Black Lives Matter. It's the whole police brutality. That's what's going on. That's what we're talking about.
Behind it, not necessarily.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, nobody made him the face of what's going on. So I don't know what she's talking about.
And he didn't ask to be the face of
it.
He died during an injustice. He should be alive right now.
Yeah, so
like I
didn't understand it.
It feels like a big lack of empathy. And it really makes me sad, because I think because of this massive lack of empathy, that's kind of how we got here. When people don't care,
Yeah.
For the culture.